First few.
Welcome back, Good Performance Podcast. It's episode 1.5, 2, whatever you want to call it. Went on a hiatus. We recorded like a 30-minute one last week. It was okay. It was pretty good. Better. We're going to try to improve our equipment and whatnot. Have a more interactive show for you guys. I'm Otto Zaccardo, joined by Troy Shallow and Brandon Jetter. And yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah. Brandon you had a great track meet yesterday, coaching, people succeeding.
Yeah, some big PRs, man. Got a hurdler, number 1 in the state, number 15, top 15 in the country, last I checked. So, some great developments there. But yeah,
What's how is it like being at track meets as a coach now instead of an athlete? Like, because I remember, I mean, obviously, high school track was my only experience, but I had been to some friends' collegiate meets, and even as a spectator, I always really liked track meets.
yeah.
I just liked it, but I don't know if there's a different element of maybe exhaustion or stress as a coach than as a spectator as an athlete.
I mean, I think the primary component of coaching track is everything that you do prior to the meet. The meet's just execution. At that point, you're kind of just mentally directing your athlete, and to prepare them in the best way capable, giving them a few cues, putting them through warm-ups. It's not like football or basketball where you have like hard X's and O's that you're actually dealing with during the game with a game plan. I think most of the work, the hay is put in the barn prior, and so it's more one of execution. I love it. I'm super passionate about it. It's crazy to me that there's coaches out there in any sport that can't get athlete buy-in, because I think that is actually like the easier component of it, is kind of building that culture and building that philosophy. So I love it. I get hype. I get 30,000 steps. I yell. I lose my voice. So yeah, I love it for sure.
And Troy, you also had a tournament of sorts this weekend.
I was
You've
supposed
kind
to
of
have
vent,
a tournament.
yeah, you've kind of vented already, but if you want to
I was
just
supposed
give
to
us
have
some
a
quick
tournament.
updates.
This is this new promotion called United Grappling. They're basically brand new, so maybe they're just working out their kinks and stuff. But I'd signed up for this tournament a few weeks ago, and it got moved from the original date because there wasn't enough people signed up. So it got moved to yesterday, on Saturday. And when I checked Smooth Comp, which is the software that all the wins, losses, and timing of matches are updated on, I saw that my first match is at 5:21 p.m. Okay, great. It's in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's a little over an hour away. I'll get there for 4:30. I'll be good to go. Then I checked a little later on, and my first match was then at 6:05 p.m. Okay, the tournament's running a little bit behind. That's not uncommon. Usually 15 to 30-minute swing and match time is not uncommon. Well, I was planning to leave at like 3:15 or whatever to get up there for 4:30 or so. When I got in my truck at 3:15, I checked just to make sure it hadn't gotten moved back again or up a little bit. Not like I said, 15 to 30 minutes. It was now at 4:03 p.m. So it got moved up 2 full hours. That's insane. So even if I had left, it was a little over an hour away, I wouldn't have been able to make it. So I come to find out after the fact that there was like 2 or 3 other people in my bracket, and only one of them showed up. So this screwed up everybody. Like, no one else showed up except for this one guy. And yeah, just horrible, bad business on their part. You can't move up a match 2 hours like that. Like, do they expect me to just be up there and hang out there all day? Like, that's just insane. So that really pissed me off yesterday, but I have another tournament coming up this weekend, which should be a more fun and well put together one. That I have a 22-man absolute all belts bracket, which is black belts, brown belts, anyone that can be in it, 22 people, any weights, could be 100 pounds, could be 300 pounds, and first place gets $500 cash prize. Will I get that? No, I don't think so. I'm not that good yet, but there will be some killers there, so it will be a fun tournament this weekend.
Wait, it's any weights? There's
Any
no
weights, any weights, any belts. So it could
is
be
that common?
it's just an option to sign up for. It's called absolute. It's like any weights, any belts, whoever wants to sign up, go ahead. Like basically like go prove that you're the best one here. You could be 300-pound black belt, you could be 100-pound white belt, and you could go against each other. It's just whoever wants to can sign up for it. I mean, I don't think there's any white belts signed up. I think it's primarily purple, brown, black people that are belts that sign up for it. um, and anyway, so I signed up for the under, or in my other weight class, I'm under 230 because I have the absolute and then my weight division. So I signed up for under 230, and I think there's one or two other people in that. So I'll have that and the absolute bracket, which is going to be, like I said, 22 man is a lot. That's uncommon for these tournaments. So it's going to be a big bracket. That's why there's a $500 cash prize at the end if you win. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
I'm excited for it. Hey, maybe you put together your own little mini tournament. I don't know what kind of insurance we need, but that could be.
I would really like to.
Yeah, we had. I mean,
I think it would be fun. I think it would be successful. I would really like to do that at some
the
point.
booth went well. Plenty of stuff for me to do. I'd be down.
Yeah.
That would be a blast.
How come no one? Wait, no one. I don't mean to go on a tangent, but no one explained Davis Clark showing up at the booth.
Oh, he
I never heard like the lore here.
He coaches I believe he played football for Winchester, and now he coaches for Winchester, and the Winchester coaching staff was there.
Yeah.
That was it.
I
He came by the booth because most of the coaches came by the booth to test out the grip strength. So
I thought it was gonna be like there was like a finance conference or something going on like the next building, and he like wandered in
for Winchester football. I think he coaches
okay.
JV or something. He was there. Yeah.
He was pumped.
Nice.
He loved the energy. Brought the energy up. It was a blast. Okay, well, I have some more questions building off of last week, but Coach, if you had some from Instagram that were especially interesting or curious, that we could start with those too.
So very rarely do I get really good questions on the Instagram.
Okay, so then maybe we don't go over them.
Like
you can
I'll
share an
give you guys
example.
I'll give you some of the examples of questions that I get. Ready? Thoughts on how many sets for stuff? That's a real question someone asked me. I mean, what, come on. That's crazy. Or what should I do if I get really gassy from this one particular protein powder? Switch up protein powders. Like, try a different one. Then there's a couple other ones. I mean, how to grow facial hair as an Irish man. I answered it with, just be Italian. That's simple answer. This is a good one, and I know Coach actually has talked about this before. Opinion on beets or beetroot powder before training. I thought that was a pretty interesting one. That's very that's an interesting question. I don't have any strong opinions on it. I've used it before, but not enough to really formulate a strong opinion on it. I think it can be beneficial depending on what you're using it for, but I know Coach has talked about that with me in the past before, so I don't know if he wants to provide any input on that one.
I'm a fan of eat beets. I think I went through a kick where I try to simplify every food or supplement down because like the headlines, like a headline for this would be like eating beets makes you run faster. Well, kind of, yeah. Like vasodilator, it's actually good for you. You have to be careful about eating too many beets, right? So if you're eating like an obscene amount, but I think there's two things you can do. You can cut them up and you can put them in, I think like salad dressing or olive oil or something, and it's pretty not an offensive taste to eat. Or you can get the powder. I think the powder is probably more expensive just from a margin standpoint. I don't think beets are very expensive, but the idea is it's a vasodilator, increases blood flow. I'm sure there's a bunch of other positive vitamins and minerals. But I do kind of like the idea of will this make me faster or stronger? Yeah, indirectly it won't hurt you. You have to be careful with eating too many nitrates. I think that can cause problems, but I'm not really sure. Maybe one day we'll have to get a dietitian on. But yeah, I like beets. I think they're good for you. It's not. It's like most other things. It's not going to be like a dramatic 180, but I think especially with aerobic training, like anything that involves your cardio, that's really dependent on your blood flow. If you're looking for a specific time on a longer distance event or something, I think that it would be helpful. Can't hurt if you can eat beets, or like it's not a pleasant taste. But yeah, so yeah, eat beets. Beets make you faster. Go ahead.
This question is actually pretty good, and we can go into it. But unweighted or weighted jumps first if doing both in the same session? And the answer that I gave to this on the Instagram was, if you are pairing them together, I prefer weighted jumps and then unweighted, like as a contrast. But if you're doing them like separately throughout the session, like say you're doing whatever, I don't know, you're testing, I would say vertical jump or whatever, like your unweighted jumps first as like your A1 or whatever, and then later on as part of your workout you would add in your weighted jumps and things like that. But that would be my answers. I don't know if you guys differ on that.
No, I agree. We have a saying around here. We say, keep the main thing the main thing. So if the focus is on a vertical jump test, or some variety of a CMJ, if that's the focus, then yeah, we're gonna do that first, and then incorporate weighted jumps somewhere in the workout. If it's a superset, then yeah, then might be different. But yeah, keep the main thing the main thing. So I agree.
Yeah, I, if it's for a training, I would agree. If it's for a training purpose, yeah, contrast, you can do weighted jumps first. But again, like Brandon said, if you're testing a vert or trying to get data on a CMJ or something, do that first. Don't do all your weighted jumps and then be like, oh, I don't know why I'm not jumping higher. Well, okay, you're doing weighted jumps. You're getting tired. It's okay. Um, but I think when people ask questions, especially like with training, they'll ask it in a very like isolated instance, like your question, and that seems to be happen a lot, not just with the guys that we train, but just in general. I'm sure Brandon, you run into this too. Like someone's like, "Oh, you're really into training? Oh, bobsled athlete, track athlete," and then the question will be boiled down to like, "Should I be doing this? Should I be doing
I
this?"
sprint every day.
And yeah, like what's the best way to get faster? You know, like what do I have to do? Like, what's your favorite way to get faster? And they're very simple questions. So then the best way to answer it is with a simple answer. But people don't want a simple answer. They want like, what's the secret sauce? And I think we've talked about this on, in season one, where we kind of exhausted all of our opinions on training. But it's just training is it's super simple, but it's way more complicated to answer in just, yeah, that's good or that's bad. But that's oftentimes the best answer. I don't know if you guys feel it. Like, should I take creatine? Yeah. Well, but what about this? Well, then no. Like, what about my coach says this, the environment that I'm in is very anti-creatine. And I was like, okay, well, if it's going to stress you out, then it's probably not worth it. Like if you're going to be thinking about it too much and you're going to be worried about water or cramping or whatever kind of article you read about the potential harmful side effects of creatine, then you know what? Don't take it, right? Like it's pretty safe, it's pretty tested. Take it if you want, but don't worry about it. Okay. Sorry. I'm
That's
gonna
that for
avoid
the
going.
that's that for the
Yeah, I'm
Instagram
gonna
question.
avoid going off
That
on
was the best
tangents.
Instagram question that we had.
Wow.
So
Okay, so maybe the next time we put up a poll, we'll say 2 to 3 sentences. Ask a question.
okay.
Just give a little bit more. I got some would you rather's because those seem to be popular in the gym. So we can rifle through these.
Yep.
And I don't know if I asked these before. Would you rather be the fastest person in any room, we'll say from an accelerator standpoint, or the strongest person in any room? Speed or absolute strength?
What's your build?
You.
Me, just as is. Because I'm gonna say if I'm the strongest person in the room and I walk in and I'm built and I'm Brian Shaw walking in, like, yeah, that's.
Fastest person in the room or strongest person in the room? You can interpret it however you want.
I would
And
say,
why? Sorry. And why?
Okay. Shit. I would say I'd probably lean towards strongest person in the room. Because I don't know, I don't really know why. I would lean towards strongest person in the room. I guess if it's me and I'm walking into a room, I would lean towards strongest person in the room because, well, actually, if you choose fastest person in the room, how strong are you? Are you weak? Are you really weak? And if you choose strongest person in the room, are you really slow?
Nope. Nope. You're either the fastest person in the room or the strongest person in the room.
Like, if I choose fastest person in the room, am I the weakest person in the room? Or if I choose strongest person in the room, am I the fastest person?
It sounds like
the slowest person in the room.
It sounds like your answer is strongest because you're far too concerned with whether or not you're the weakest. So strongest. It's a good answer. It's fine. Brandon.
I'm gonna go fastest. I'm still thinking from a sports performance perspective, and I think it's easier to make a fast person strong than to make a really strong person fast. But from a social standard, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's like the Wojak meme where like it's at a party or whatever, and it'd be like, oh, they don't know I can run a 4.3 or whatever. Like nobody. So from a social perspective, yeah, maybe strongest, but from a sports performance perspective, yeah, fastest.
Fastest. I would be fastest. Yeah. Speed is what everybody wants. It's what scales throughout the levels. Um, Everyone wants to get faster, and oftentimes you have to get stronger in order to get faster anyway. So if you can just be the fastest person, you can never. I remember I'd always talk to my pops about this when I was younger training. You can never be too fast. Impossible. No one ever says, "Oh, this athlete would have a really successful career, but he was just too darn fast." You know. All right. Never get injured ever again or be able to eat whatever you want with no consequences.
Never get injured ever again. Never get injured ever. I've had too many injuries. I don't want to ever be like injured, like need surgery injured, like seriously injured. Yeah, never again. I would never.
I think just minor injuries too. Like you're not going to get injured.
Yeah, I'd lean towards that. And then what was the other one?
You could eat whatever you want without any consequences whatsoever. So you could eat a diet full of Kit Kats and Twinkies, and you would still pack on. Your training would be totally fine. Nothing.
No,
no
never
impact.
get injured ever again.
Okay.
I would 100% that.
I'm gonna say never get injured because I'm not really drawn to eat. Like I kind of just already eat whatever I want, and it's not necessarily super bad, if that makes sense. Like it's not the cleanest, but like I'm not drawn to just eat absolute shit. You know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong. I love eating. I love eating a lot, and I would eat a lot.
Troy's been cooking up, man. I've seen it on Instagram.
And I would eat a lot of crazy things if I did choose that
Like what?
one. But I don't know, everything. Like if I would eat a diet if with no consequences, I would eat Kit Kats and Twinkies and cake and Five Guys fries every day. Like I would be a pig. I would be an absolute pig. Disgusting. But I think my desire to not get injured outweighs my desire to eat like a pig.
Yeah. I would pick the same. I think one of the biggest setbacks for training or accomplishing any goal physically is usually an injury or monitoring like volume or intensity so that you don't get hurt.
Gotta be pretty gluttonous to choose to eat anything. Answer, I'm not gonna lie. How many people chose it?
I haven't released these.
No.
These are one. I would probably just pull the ones that we find the most.
Greedy.
I
the
could probably
most,
name 5 people that we know and train that would
I
choose
think there's.
the food one.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some
greedy,
some
man.
GPC guys that would choose the food one. This is like a agree or disagree, but I thought this was interesting was pickup basketball tells you more about somebody than any combine or testing drill from an athlete standpoint.
I agree. I would agree with that. I think
Watching
that's a
someone
good. I think that's a funny point to make, and it I do agree with it because it does. It shows you a ton of like coordination. I've played with and had teammates who were phenomenal athletes, and they were got on the basketball court, and it was like they had five five arms, and they couldn't figure out which one to use. Like,
Dude, I like it from a mindset perspective. I feel like I mentioned this before. I played a ton of pickup basketball in college. I can like mention it now, and I'd play in all settings. Like I played at the rec. I'd go and like play it in the hood. Like I'd play it everywhere. Like at like youth centers, and like I remember one time like I used to get when I was a competitor. I'm not gonna lie. Like in track, like my biggest weakness was definitely like the mental component. Like I was so much pressure and so much like got so nervous, and then I played pickup basketball, and like I would always be like just letting my nuts hang. Like I'd be just like talking shit the entire time. And I remember one time I had this like existential moment, and I was like, dude, like why the fuck am I so much more confident in pickup basketball? Like this thing I don't care about, this thing that I don't, versus the thing that like my life is structured around. And I think that was like actually a pretty like weirdly revealing moment for me. It was kind of like an ego death. I was like, wow, I need to lock in mentally if like I can have this level of confidence and pick up basketball. And it's like, and it was still very competitive, right? Exclusively in the pickup setting, I was incredibly competitive. Like maybe I'll bring a guest on one time. Maybe I'll bring like there was like so many times like I would just be like after playing it for 2 hours like 1v1 someone, and it would have to be like win by 2, and it just shit would be dragging on for 2 hours and just getting like insanely physical. But yeah, no, I think it's actually revealing from a mental like aspect as well. It kind of like when it gets really competitive, and I think when it gets into a 1v1, it kind of really shows I don't know, someone's level of competitiveness. And
I think it's also interesting to see. I mean, it's one thing if you take someone that's never played basketball before, so because you do anything you haven't done it before, you probably won't be great. Some guys are still good, but from an athlete chooses their play style, right? Are you like a scrappy, like you're just hounding defense, a try hard, like you're trying too hard on defense? Are you sitting on the corner, but maybe you're making all your threes? I think that can show sometimes how people or athletes like problem solve where they're trying to get to the next goal, and that kind of
yeah,
can show
yeah,
tendencies too, right? Because some people,
yeah.
some people are just gonna, like we talked about, you have to run through a wall or jump over it. Some people see success jumping over it. Some see success running through it. It's kind of just you got to figure out which works best for you. Um,
Dude, pickup basketball was more revealing of anything for me. Like I was like just grit and grind, like Dennis Rodman on there, like diving on like concrete, like in pickup basketball. While I was like a collegiate athlete, very very stupid in retrospect.
I
But
would beat you 11-4, Brandon.
oh, not a chance, not a chance, not a chance in snowball's chance in hell.
Okay.
we'll have
Yeah,
to set
we'll
it up.
see. Actually, it probably my issue. Wow, we're gonna go on a
Well,
tangent.
wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a
Yeah.
second.
It went from
Are we
not a
talking-
chance in hell to
Oh
well,
no,
actually.
I'm a realist. I'm a realist, right? And my I was very good at pickup basketball because I could jump really high, and like I had a physical stat. You're gonna eliminate the physical stature component that I had against other people because you're way bigger than me. So I am I am like at least a little self aware, but I do have a pretty competent skill set. It's just gonna have to
But
change my game
this is
style.
the like Otto's brother who played Division 1 basketball has made the point that 1-on-1 is not always
No,
indicative
of
of
course.
like a 3-on-3 or a 4-on-4. It makes a lot, like tells you a lot more than just 1-on-1.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to get a game. Brandon, you'll have to come out this
No,
summer. We're trying to
for
get a
sure.
tournament scheduled up with all the guys in the gym.
All
No
the guys
shit.
in the gym want a
Wow,
GPC basketball
okay.
tournament.
Okay. less.
So this kind of leads into the next one. We're talking about how athletes approach different things. And I'm sure we have talked about it. The mental side of sport is more important than the physical side. Agree or disagree?
I don't know about
More.
important.
Yeah,
But
you can elaborate on it.
yeah,
The statement is the mental side of sport is more important than the physical side.
I don't know about more important, but it is. I would say it's more important than I ever realized, and it took me it took me way too long to realize that. I feel like I've mentioned this before, especially at the collegiate level, competing in the most kind of like metric driven or like however you want to describe it, right? Like kind of you're fast or you're not. Like I saw shit happen enough times that was kind of like inexplicable by like the pencil pushers and the actually people that like to the extent that like I was like there's a mental component. I'll tell this story real briefly. I had a teammate. So in the Division One system, it goes like you have your conference, and then there's NCAA regionals. They take 42 of the top athletes in each one, and then there's the prelim and a final. 21 go to the final, and then out of the final 12 go to nationals. This guy came in high jump and the hurdles, kind of shit the bed in high jump, so no chance of going to nationals. Came into hurdles ranked 42nd. He was last place, the last qualifier. He ties for 21st place to make to make the final after we all thought he was done after this storied career. We're like, wow, it's going to end on a shitty high jump and his terrible hurdles. Goes from 42 to 21, ties at 21. Sac State was hosting West Regionals that year. They have a 9-lane track, so they took 23 people, and then boom, he got 10th place, went to nationals, ended up All American. That's should never have happened, right? We're talking like I don't know how much dude dropped, but he dropped tenths. Like this should not have never happened. But he was just like such a gamer that he knew this is the end of the road, and he just locked in and executed, and that really like that was another ego death moment that really shaped, just absolutely changed my perspective on it.
I think it depends on the sport. I think it depends on the sport. I think in football, in football, we'll break it down. You can break it down by position. Tom Brady has always said that he excelled mental. His mental was better than everyone else's, which is true. But then you can also have someone whose mental in football is not there that great, but their physical traits and how they play the game outweigh their mental capacity and their mentality in the same sport. So you could break that down by position essentially. I know for me, an example would be in jiu-jitsu where I'm not super confident right now. Do I have the physical tools? 100%. Yeah, I have more, not to like brag or sound like a dick. I have more physical tools than most of the people doing jujitsu, but my mental capacity in jujitsu is not there yet. I don't know enough. I'm not confident enough going into tournaments. I I don't know. I do a lot of self like deprecating in my mind when it comes to jujitsu and leading up to tournaments. Whereas if I was more confident and had more of a stronger mental side to it, I'd probably suit me well and I'd probably do better. But I don't know. I think it depends on the sport and it depends on the position in sport. I really think that one depends. That's my take.
I think there's a threshold too, right? Like there's a certain amount, like, and obviously, like you said, it differs by position, but there's a certain like physical requirement that you might get to that point. I don't know if I'm articulating this right. Like you have athlete A, athlete B, and as like that physical limitations, they kind of the scale of it kind of diminishes. That's where you might see the mental aspect matter more. Obviously, by position, it's gonna matter. When I hear mental, I'm thinking more of the ability to lock in as opposed to like a quarterback going through his progressions or something. You know what I mean? I'm thinking less of the sort of like sports intelligence component of it and more of like just the sheer grit and kind of ability to pull something out of nothing. At least that's how I interpret it. And I think as the physical limitations kind of diminish, that starts to become where it matters more.
Yeah, I think I used to think that the physical aspect of sport was everything. And that may be if I took the way I approach sport or training for granted, maybe if that was more unique. But I think I'm going to stand by and say I think the mental aspect of sport and competing, much like anything else, is more important than the physical aspect. And it's for this reason. you see people with physical limitations all the time achieve at the highest level. There's always people that can achieve extreme, like supernatural achievements, basically, despite having physical limitations. And that is explained more so because of their mental state and how they approach progress and training than anything else, whether it be their past experience, their, community, their social circle around them, what drives them. But that mental aspect, I think, can manifest itself in physical traits. And I think there's a lot more instances of people having really good physical traits, being physically dominant in any sport where they start out really great, but because they maybe approached it in a less than optimal way, or they weren't thinking about things that would help them, or just didn't have an approach that would feed them, they don't see as much success as someone that may have started further back in the physical aspect, that adopt the correct kind of mental model to go through training and progressions. And that is something that I have changed my thoughts on, because before it's just like biggest, fastest, strongest wins always, no matter what. But I think more so we see, especially with the guys training, the people who buy into what we say with 1% progress weekly, it's going to take time, keep clocking in, keep clocking out. Those are the athletes that make the most progress. And a lot of times you can see someone start, it's happened multiple times with Troy and I, where someone comes in and their threshold for physical, like they are just bottom tier, right? Like a reasonable, if you hadn't seen it and been around sport your whole life, you would look at some of these athletes and say, no chance. You're wasting your time. Like, why would you do this? But then they buy in, they approach the correct, or, a beneficial way of looking at it, the mindset, the psychology, and they get to a point where it's like, oh wow, that you're actually legit now. Like you could do something. And I think if you can replicate that across all the athletes you train, that's everything. And I think
Buy-in is huge. Just building the culture is massive. It's one thing that I've learned since.
Well, it's everything. Yeah. So, and that gets me excited too, because I think people really don't realize that if they change the way they think about, and this doesn't have to be for sport, obviously we always talk about sport, but the same thing with fitness and, a lot of fitness coaches, you clean up in body transformation and diet and all that stuff. And if somebody has the right mental side of their training and self-improvement, or progress in any goal, I think that overcomes your physical limitations. Or at the very least, you can adopt something like, hey, this is what I'm working with. Despite that, I'm going to make it work. And that belief drives people to success. And I think that's way more important than the physical side of things. And that is a very different stance than I had when I was a younger athlete. So yeah. All right. I got some more scenarios, and then, we can wrap this up. I kind of like keeping them closer to 45-ish minutes than our previous, hour and a half, 2 hour long ramblings. But let's see, which one would work here? Well, this kind of goes back into, all right, here we go. Would you rather coach one generational talent for 1 year? So, a Lamar Jackson, a LeBron James, insert the super famous, generational athlete, or coach 100 average athletes for 10 years?
100 average athletes for 10 years.
And why?
And the reason for that is you coach one generational talent for 1 year, there's not that much you can learn. They're generational talent. They already have all the tools. Like there's not that much. There's not much I could do as a strength coach or a trainer to enhance LeBron James. Like he's he's been this way since he was 15. Like, he's been the chosen one since he was 15. Lamar Jackson is doing what he did in high school in the NFL. Like, he's a generational talent. There is not much I could do to enhance him. I could maybe give him some stuff that would help make him more durable and injury resilient. But there's not much I would learn. Like, I wouldn't get much out of that. Whereas if I take 100 average guys for 10 years, I can put all those guys on different training programs and learn a ton about different types of athletes, like 100 different, like, say it's 25 football, 25 basketball, 25 hockey, and 25 wrestling. And it's the breakdown of those, 100 athletes or whatever. I can change and learn over time different things about all these sports, all this programming. I can watch them grow and see them gain from the training, and that to me would be a little more fulfilling than just, training. Say 5 of those 100 guys make it professional or make it to Division I or whatever it is, whereas previously they may not have been able to do so without starting training. That's
so they're not
beneficial.
They're not going to make it to any level past average.
How do you know?
My prompt.
With 10 years of training, it's possible.
It is possible.
So you're asking the question from the perspective of the end result. You're saying would you rather have spent 10 years training and they only ended up average?
Yeah, like they're average.
Not
they're
possible.
not.
They've spent 10 years training with us. They're not ending up average. It's not possible.
Okay, yeah, that's
my take.
10 years of training, no one will be average.
That's what I think.
Well, some might be at least
some might be average.
Yeah.
Some, but you will get at least 5 who make it to the Division I or professional level.
So I would argue that's not average, but here we go. I'll give you I'll give you another element to it. How about this? You're training, if it's 100 average athletes for 10 years, average athletes in every sense, that means they're showing up to 60% of sessions. They're logging 50%.
75% would be average, would it not? Because that's C. That's a C grade. C is average, no?
Yeah, but not from grading standpoint. Based on the data we have, 60% is average what people actually attend in a full training. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I can crunch the numbers, but it's much closer to 60 because we have guys that miss all the time, so it skews things.
For 2 weeks and then
we'll do mean. We could do median, and maybe it would be 70, but yeah. So they're average in every sense. That means diet, sleep, attendance, effort. Everything is average. It's 10 years of average training. That's it.
When you put it like that, that would probably make me want to blow my head off. So I guess dealing with that for 10 years, and there's not a single kid that's going to buy in any more than 60%, then yeah, I probably wouldn't take that. That's awful. That's terrible.
But they'll show up for 10 years. So that's pretty consistent. They're just showing up consistently. So instead of being 4 or 5 days a week, they're consistently showing up 3 days a week, but they're putting in 10 years. They refuse to stop. You say, hey,
really slow 10 years.
Yeah. Makes it a more difficult question, I thought.
Yeah, it does, because it's we've already dealt with people who it's dude, you barely show up. You're not fun to train. That's a very difficult question.
Yeah. Well, because obviously, the 10 years, 100 athletes. Yeah, I'm going to 100. I guess some of them are going to be exceptional. No, none will be exceptional. No matter what you do, they might have. You might.
No matter what you do,
they're going to make improvements. They're going to make improvements. They're going to, they're going to get a lot from coaching, community. They'll get all the benefits of training with you and being coached by you, but they are not going to pass the threshold. They're going to go from what is your thing? They're going to go from shit to suck.
They won't ever get from suck to good.
Well, you got to buy in. No. I think from the end result, no. But you are going to help them improve.
Brandon, what's your answer?
Well, to the one that didn't have the asterisk first, I want to answer that one first. I agree with Troy. I would go with 10 years because there's just so much more to learn. I mean, I've been doing this for a way shorter time than you guys. And when I initially got started, even with like just a little bit, I like just wanted talent that was at least a little bit above average because I'm like, I don't know. It's just like I thought it would be funner to deal with, but really going into the second year of this, I've actually found it more fulfilling to take average athletes, especially in a large lump sum. You can do different interventions and potentially see different outcomes, like kind of treat them like a science experiment. Whereas I think, and I, haven't coached a generational talent, but I've coached very, very good talent. And I sometimes think that coaches inflate their egos with just how much you can get out of that talent, and they kind of take more credit for it than, and maybe I'm just projecting, but like than they're capable of. Maybe this is what I've like witnessed people do. But for the asterisk one, that is an incredibly hard challenge. I think I would just like, I don't know. I probably would go with the generational talent. I don't know if I could do 10 years of people like just 60% buy-in. That's like, I can't go 10 days of 60% buy-in, and it just drives me crazy.
So the determining factor for both of you guys would be, well, if they're not going to be buying in, then
Yeah,
I don't think I
it's
could do that for 10 years.
It's just
Okay,
a
fair.
fucking
We can leave it at the first one. I just wanted to make it.
buying
It
into
seemed a little
everything.
too. It seemed a little too obvious, right? Because obviously, yeah, I want
because
a
then you're
hundred
just
guys
pulling
bought
your
in.
hair out. You're like, bro, can you show up more? And they're like, yeah, totally. And then they just don't. You're like,
That's
Would it
common.
not?
Is that common for you guys at the
it's
GPC?
happened.
Like relatively common?
No,
I wouldn't
No.
say
it's.
common, but it's
I
happened.
think we just notice it more because the guys that we don't have to worry about, it doesn't like we don't think about it. It's just checking in, like, yeah, they do a great job. But then the ones that don't, it's frustrating because it's like, when everything's moving smoothly, everyone's hitting their numbers, progress is going, guys are showing up, and it's a machine. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's fun. It's just energetic. But then when you get people that don't attend all their sessions, so say you hit one session, two sessions in 2 weeks, and you come in for maybe a third session at the end of that second week or the third week you start up, and you're still on the same training block, you haven't been doing the stuff in the training block, and then what's going to happen? One, your energy is down because you're not going to make as much. You haven't made the progress, so you're kind of, I've been doing this for 3 weeks. You haven't been doing it for 3 weeks, but in people's head, it's like, oh, I've been here for 3 weeks. What's going on? And then it takes time for us to explain, okay, well, this is why this is happening. Here's three other people that started after you. They started 2 weeks after you or a week after you, and they've already made more progress than you because they've just clocked more sessions. They've taken care of themselves. So it's not common, but it definitely is more noticeable because the standard, the average athlete that we train will show up to most of their sessions and will make progress. So when people kind of have a, you know, laid back approach about training, or maybe it's if they were going somewhere else previously, it's like, oh, like this is just like everywhere else. Like I'll just treat it like, I'll pop in when I pop in to
Yeah.
work out. It's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yep.
well,
And then
just go somewhere else. Like that's not really what we do. It doesn't matter to us, but you're not helping us, and you end up really just wasting time. So I wouldn't say it's average, but when we notice it, we definitely notice it more. And it hurts your training. I also think, that asterisk that I added, it's not very realistic because I agree. If you're training somebody for 10 years, 100 athletes for 10 years, that kind of flies in the face of like, if you can train, if someone's bought in for 10 years, they'll be above average no matter what.
it better
So,
be.
yeah, for anyone listening, 10 years of anything and you're going to be pretty good. Um, I don't know if you'd get to generational, but I still think you would get a lot of those athletes better. Maybe it wasn't that great. Um, that great of a prompt.
No, it was good. That was a
All
good
right,
prompt.
last one. Last one. Have your best training session every day you train, or have one perfect, flawless competition when it counts flawless execution on performance day or have the best training session every day. You'll never have a perfect competition at the perfect moment. That's the training side of it. And the flawless execution, you'll just have, ups and downs. Maybe, no perfect training days, but you have perfect execution on the day that counts. And I'm curious what you guys think, because
just one perfect execution on the day that counts, and it can come randomly. It's literally like, I'll use my example of jiu-jitsu, like one perfect flawless execution just randomly at any tournament, or like I get to
nope.
choose a tournament.
It's going to be when the most important time for you to execute to your absolute best. So it's NCAA champs in the 100-meter. It's the, biggest game of the year for football. It's the most important race for bobsled or push evaluation. It's the, national or world champions of jiu-jitsu match where you're up against someone way better.
Yeah,
are you going to take that, or are you going to take perfect training every single day?
I'm taking that. I'm taking that over perfect training every single day.
And why?
I'm taking that because if you're, you have training sessions that they might not be perfect, but you can always strive to make the next one better. You'll never actually reach perfect training. Like, nothing is ever perfect, so you'll never actually reach perfect training. But you can always strive to get better. And then if you're just striving to get better in your training, and then you show up on the biggest competition day and you win the biggest competition day, which is what you've been training for, that is a lot more valuable and fulfilling. And I think that makes more sense.
Execution, no doubt. I mean, look at the sports I did the last, 8 to 10 years. They were very much execution sports, and I was bad at executing, frankly, if I'm being honest. I tracked really good. I stacked really good training days, and a lot of times I just didn't execute. It goes back to the mental component. For me, yeah, I mean, I just feel like I've had a lot of good training days. I've had a lot of bad ones too, but just execution, I think, is literally everything. I think removing the answer for myself, I think it would differ by sport if I were to choose it for someone else. But yeah, execution for sure, no doubt.
Really? I am actually very surprised that you guys both answered that.
What would you say?
I would take perfect training day every day.
Mm-hmm.
I would take perfect training day every day.
I mean, it is going to raise the baseline, a perfect,
So when
floor.
Perfect training day, I'm not getting injured. Numbers are moving at, let's say, the lowest of standard improvement. So not even 1%, less than 1% a week. And the reason I would say perfect training day is that one victory of perfect competition, it happens and it's done. And I think from a standpoint of being able to move forward and do new things, clocking in perfect training days over and over and over again, I think would be more beneficial in the long run. This also could be biased because I don't know if I've experienced what it's like to have perfect execution in something. So it's hard to put myself in that place because, outside looking in, that's awesome. But I think I'm much closer to know what it's like to have a perfect training day in a block. So to have that when you're just dialed in every day, I think that sets you up for success. And even if you don't have perfect execution on the day of, I think I would take that every single time. So that was interesting. I didn't actually expect you guys to both take perfect execution. That's very interesting. So then by the same side, it's the outcome that matters, not the method, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting take.
If I'm training I'm training my whole life for this one goal to be a jiu-jitsu world champion, and I train my whole life and I never get there. Okay, that sucks. But I trained my whole life and I do get there, and on that competition day I win, then I've trained my whole life for that goal. Okay, I've achieved that goal.
Yeah, no, execution. I think a lot of that, just for me personally, just came from the individual sports background as I really like started to hyper focus on one sport. Because I remember like even like one time someone asked me like really when I started to accumulate like school records when I was in high school, and my goal still remained like focused on state at the time, and I literally said I was like someone's gonna break these records one day, like a medal like someone can't like take away from you. And I obviously never got the medal. I never executed. I was never a great executor, but like that was always my logic, was like I could stack great training, have this great career, and I don't regret like any, you know what I mean? Like, but like if you ever get the big win, ever get the unreal performance, like nobody, my logic was always that like nobody can take that away from you. Someone can always take away, I think, the other components in terms of competition, right? Not in terms of training, but
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it as much. So it's
but like I said, I think it differs.
is that to say that okay, say you don't accomplish that one goal, right? Competition day when performance is or execution is flawless. If that doesn't work and you spent all that time training, does that mean where does that leave you?
Well, that's the reality for I feel like 99.9% of athletes is you're not gonna get, you know what I mean? There's only one person that can fully really execute it in a given sport. So you have to kind of like, as cliched as it is, you kind of have to like enjoy the journey and like take solace in certain components of that and perform accordingly. But like I said, I think it differs by sport to add like a different perspective. Like if you're like a really, really good role player, like execution, I mean, I guess you could argue that like being the good role player is the execution, but I'm just like, you know, I'm thinking of like the garbage time guy in basketball, or the, you know, like who comes in and gets 8 rebounds and 1 point, you know what I mean, 1 free throw. For them, maybe that's their execution, but you know, maybe being the star doesn't nearly matter as much as consistency does, or you know, even certain positions in football. If you're like a fullback, maybe not. Don't take that wrong, Troy, but like, you know, a more specified role in your position. I think then maybe stacking consistency matters more than having an unreal game, right? You know, but
Yep. Just thoughts. I think I was surprised that both you said execution. Does that mean that if you don't accomplish the goal, what is the worth of training?
well, it's not the only thing. I mean, I like not to be cliche, but
How
it's like,
close would your execution have to be to perfect to make perfect training and preparation worth it?
well,
Right?
I mean,
At what threshold
yeah.
would you take? So if I was to say you don't have the most perfect performance, you have the results of perfect training every day.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean,
It's more important to have the perfect flawless execution, the one where you play out of like to perform out of your mind, than raise your threshold over time and have like say 80% of that capacity. Is
I mean,
that
that's
what
where it
you guys
becomes.
think?
That's I mean, that's obviously where it becomes like way more difficult to kind of to make that decision, and it would really differ on like what your ultimate goal is. I think, you know, if I was still running track, right, like I would absolutely take a sub 10 over a bunch of consistent 10 flat performances, even if I racked up all these accolades, because I just think it's a much larger accomplishment. But you know, if any other sport, even with bobsled, like I would say, like if you're at the threshold where you can be consistent, you know, make an Olympic squad, even if you're not top dog as a push athlete, I think that would be better than necessarily being the absolute best pusher on the
Right.
face of the planet. So that's what I mean. I think it really differs by sport, in my opinion. And I also don't know what perfect execution would look like. I think, you know, like one big flaw that I like had in my track career is I got so mental about it, especially towards the end, that like I don't think I would ever call it something a perfect execution, even if it was. So I don't know what that looks like either. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what would ultimately be satisfactory to me. I think I would always be like, oh, I could have fixed this. And even if it was a perfect race, I would have been like, oh, I could have fixed this in the lead up. Oh, I could have. And then even if the lead up was good, I would have been like, oh, this
macro cycle 6 months ago could have been this, and I could have done way better. So,
Coach.
I said my part. I stand by that. Yeah. Check out
It
our
would-
blogs.
no,
New
I'm-
blogs
well-
weekly.
Okay. Well, the second part of the question was at what threshold would you consider the opposite, right? How perfect does it need? It's like perfect or bust, perfect execution or bust. And was there experience that you had as an athlete that makes you like lean more toward that way or not?
I could say that I felt that, well, I mean, I don't know, looking back on it, maybe it wasn't, but at the time I felt that my pro day training was perfect, and then I got there and I did not perfectly execute, whereas I would have rather perfectly executed than had perfect training in that instance. But now that was at the time, but now looking back on it, maybe my training wasn't perfect, and maybe my execution was better than I thought it could have been, so it's, but I think that using that as an example in my mind, I could work, or I'm sure there's other athletes that have done, using pro day as an example, have done the same. They felt their training was perfect and they get there and they don't execute on the day. Okay, well, then it would have been way more beneficial to execute on the day then, probably.
Would you be happy? How would you feel as a coach? Would you be happier with someone that did everything they possibly could with their preparation for an event? This is for both of you, with their preparation for an event or a competition, and then not execute to their fullest capacity, or maybe had a bad day? Or would you
Yeah.
be happier or prouder for the athlete that was laissez-faire about their training, but then come showtime, they nailed it?
But that's
Like, I guess, how would you feel as a coach?
It's
Right.
I mean, it's two very different mixtures of emotions, because I've already seen this in my short time coaching. There's been times where I've had like a very talented athlete. There seems to be like this rate. I don't know if this has been your experience with coaching athletes, but oftentimes like with the ones that I've had that have been very talented, there's like, it increases the ratio of like crash outs and emotional instability to like top, like high ceiling. I don't know. That's just like been my anecdotal experience. So I've had athletes where they piece together the worst week of training in their life, and then they execute on race day or on a competition day if it's, a team sport athlete, and like it's almost less, in a way it's less satisfactory. That becomes like a weight off my shoulders. I'm like, okay, they performed, but it's almost less satisfactory because then I look back on the weeks that they had leading up, and I'm like, well, I should have intervened this way here, I should have intervened here this way here, and this is all in hindsight, right? Whereas when you have the opposite and it's like perfect training and they don't execute, it's not equally as frustrating, but it's frustrating in a different regard, because it's like, oh, was my philosophy correct? Was my training regimen correct? Because it seemed like they were poised to perform and then they didn't perform. And is that on me? Is that, I always hate to, put it on someone else, but is that partially on their execution? So it's really two different,
This
bags
could be
of
one that
emotion.
we revisit. I think there's a lot to go over
Yeah.
there from the mental side of things, and then how training and preparation. But Coach got to prep for jiu-jitsu right now. So have a great training session, Coach. Thanks for listening.
Check out our blog post, new blog post weekly every Wednesday.
Dang.